Now, one thing that you might know about these touch screens is these screens are actually touch technology. You might not realize. So let's have a go at that. Here we go. So, there we go. Now, I'm a very visual thinker. Everything, I need to see pictures in my mind in order to understand it. So I've been having a lot of fun with the latest generation of AI text-to-image algorithms like Mid-Journey. So has anybody tried these out? A few people. Now, who can guess the phrase that I used to create this image? The elephant in the room. Actually, to be precise, I put in the African elephant in the room, just to make sure there was on target. So what's the elephant in the room? It is, of course, artificial intelligence itself, the topic that we have to talk about. I have been in this industry for quite a few decades. I have never seen a topic that generated so much FOMO, fear of missing out. How can you take this powerful technology and use it in your business? And in fact, this image is a real example of the power of these new technologies. I'm a keen photographer. I try and do some art. It would have taken me so much time to come up with an image like this, and now in seconds it generates it for me, and we're almost starting to take this for granted, right? It's like, oh yeah, of course you can do that with AI. It's worth thinking about just how powerful these technologies are and how far we have to go. There's been a Cambrian explosion of new opportunities. And don't worry if you don't know what Cambrian explosion is, because we can always turn to ChatGPT to explain it for us. So it's a period about 540 million years ago where there was a sudden explosion of new species in the fossil record. And basically all of the animals, including ourselves, all started during this period. And when it comes to AI, we're seeing also this period of explosion, of fast evolution, of new species of AI appearing all over the place. So hey, hands up if you have used ChatGPT. Hands up if your kids have used it to cheat on their homework. Who can remember how fast it got to 1 million users? How many days? 5 days, yes. Okay, that was going to be my Mentimeter, like interactive part of the technology, but they gave the answer away. So instead, I thought, well, I wonder if ChatGPT can tell jokes. So, GPT-3, can you come up with a joke about Sun City? Okay, here it is. So why did the lion refuse to visit Sun City? Because he heard the blackjack tables were filled with cheaters who never lose. Yeah, you know, I've heard better jokes, but it's from an AI engine. It's amazing. Now, ChatGPT is, all of the headlines are for ChatGPT, but it's really just one of the animals in the zoo. These are all large language models that are out there generating these kinds of opportunities. One is the fake. Just one of these is not real. So I'd like you to shout out which one you think is not real. Come on, don't be shy. Which one? Bloom? No, Bloom is real. All right, okay. Well, I can't hear anybody up here. So the one that's fake is mink. All of the others are very real. Now, just a couple I wanted to point out. So Gemini, there's an organization called DeepMind, part of Google, of Alphabet. They're coming up with their next language model called Gemini. That's the next one to look out for because they call it the ChatGPT killer. And then the other interesting one is Falcon. So this comes out of the Technology Innovation Institute, I think it is, in the United Arab Emirates, and it's open source. So you can download and use this, and there's two versions. One is like 40 billion parameters, but there's a smaller one that you can actually run on a big laptop. So the innovation is, you hear about the headlines about Bard and Google and OpenAI and Microsoft, but there's a huge amount of innovation that can go on at any level. Anybody who has a laptop can start developing some amazing things. So again, this explosion of new technology is coming. So, of course, what is SAP doing to help leverage these technologies in your organization? Well, honestly, we're going to stick to what we're best at, which is helping use technology for business goals. So business AI. We're not going to try and compete with ChatGPT or with foundational models. That doesn't make sense. We're going to help you use the best of those models to further your business processes. So how are we going to do that? Well, this is you notice there's an animal theme to today's presentation. So how are we going to help? It's BRR. So BRR. I thought it was appropriate given that it snowed in Johannesburg today. So BRR, what does that stand for? So built-in, relevant, and responsible. So the first thing is that AI is, to get the most out of AI, you basically need three things. So the first is you need good data. Like bad data means bad decisions and algorithm. Now, the data in your SAP systems, I'm sure it's not perfect, but I'm sure it's among the best data that you have in your organization, and it's among the most valuable information. So we're going to help you leverage that. Second, you need a good, well-defined business problem to solve. General AI is hard. If you have a specific business problem, it gets a lot easier and more effective. And the good news is we've been doing this for 50 years in 25 different industries. We know exactly where to find those automation opportunities where AI can make the biggest difference as fast as possible. And lastly, algorithms are useless. You need to do something, right? It has to be part of an operational process, and there, of course, SAP comes in. So built in to your existing applications using your relevant data, and we're very big believers in this last one, responsible use. These large language models, they do something called hallucination, which the rest of us calls lying. It makes stuff up. And you have to be careful as you start losing these kinds of technologies inside your business. And our job is to help you from the kind of reputational risks and ethical risks that come about from using these models. So the built-in AI, what does that mean? Well, I took this picture of a rhino in the Palace of the Lost City with the help of some AI. So RHINO, it stands for Robotic Helpers Integrated into Normal Operations. We've actually been doing artificial intelligence for a long time. Millions of people use SAP AI already today. It's not only the future. So, for example, like SuccessFactors learning recommendations or Concur invoice management. If you're using our travel tools, you can just take a picture of your invoice. It'll figure out what the amount is and the date and put that directly into your expense. Or SAP Cash Application is amazing use of it to optimize your finance. I'll come back to that in a second. And we also use it internally for things like the customer data cloud intrusion detection. What's great about AI is that you can use it to spot patterns, what's different, what's interesting, what's changed. So instead of having rules, you can say, just like, give me what's unusual. Here we're using it for fraud detection. We can use it in lots of other areas. And that's just a few examples taken from many, many more. And to a great extent, a lot of this AI, we want you to take it for granted. It shouldn't be special. It should just work. The best AI is the AI that you don't even have to think about. In our daily lives, we've gotten used to things like Google Translate or Shazam or autocomplete in Google. These things just work. We just want AI to just work in your organization, and we have a big opportunity to do so. Here's kind of how that works. This is the cash application. Mercedes-Benz is a customer of it. So this is invoice matching, where a company sends out invoices to their to customers. They pay money back, and the company gets that information via the bank. And then somebody has to do the job of matching the invoices to the payment. Now, of course, if all of the reference numbers work together, then it should be easy. But we also know in the real world, there's two payments for one invoice, or two invoices for one payment, and somebody has to go in and figure out how it all matches up. There might be a difference of currencies and so on. Now, it's exactly this sort of thing that AI is good at, pattern matching for those complex, repetitive decisions. And there's lots of these everywhere inside your organization. So Mercedes-Benz put this in place, and almost overnight, over 50% of the unmatched transactions they're able to do out of the box. But what's really great about the system is that over time, it's getting better, because anytime it can't handle one of the matches, it gets kicked out to a human being who figures out what's going on, but then that information can get put back into the algorithm to do a better job next time around. So I used AI to help me imagine this CLA Mercedes-Benz, so that's Mercedes-Benz today, but you know, the whole point of these technologies, you can start imagining the future, so I asked it to give me some concept cards for Mercedes. I'd certainly like to own one of these. They look beautiful. And, of course, we need to have the flying car, the flying Mercedes-Benz of the future. But where are we going with this? Is self-driving applications, intelligent applications that automatically get better over time as people use them. Right? So truly learning, machine learning, so that it automatically gets better and does more over time. So that's how we've been using like traditional AI for some time. We're getting better and better at that. And of course, now there's this new generative AI, and that's introduced this new element of creativity. Anybody care to tell me who these ladies are? Greek goddesses. These are the Greek goddesses of creativity, the muses. And these new generative technology, it's great for the best kind of tasks, therefore, is where it would take quite a while to create something, but you can check very quickly if it's right or not. So a great example is coding. I am a hack programmer. I can code in JavaScript and so on, but it would take me ages. With ChatGPT, I was able to create simple programs very quickly, and then it was easy to check whether it was right or not because I just ran the code. And it, if it came up with an error, I'd ask it to fix the error. Or art. I can create a picture in seconds, and if I don't like the picture, I just create a new one. So it's perfect for those kinds of opportunities. And again, there are lots of those inside organizations. We've announced a whole new set of AI applications available at Sapphire a few weeks ago. And many of those include these new generative AI models. So here's just a quick selection of some of those. So SAP transportation. So the invoices, there's lots of pieces of paper that go around between at each point in a transportation supply chain. The algorithms are perfect for recognizing the key figures on that, even if they've never seen that form before. Job descriptions and interview questions. So this is part of the SAP SuccessFactors. It's a great example where we're leveraging all of the job descriptions that are already stored in SuccessFactors. So if you're going to create a new one, why not just kick that off with an example based on all of the best practice that's gone before? So it gives you, by default, the job description that you might want to put, and then you can tweak it to make sure that it's exactly right for your organization. But it's about saving time, not wasting time recreating the wheel. Then we can have process models in Signavio. There's a great keynote tomorrow about Signavio for your process models. Again, leveraging all of the best practice that's already part of the SAP ecosystem so that you don't have to recreate things. And this one's close to my heart. My background is in analytics. And when it comes to analytics, basically what everybody wants is just like, Bob. Hey, Bob, can you tell me what the sales revenue was for last week? Over the years with SAP Analytics Cloud, we've introduced more of this technology. We've just upgraded that with Ask Data technology that we purchased. It's a generative model, and so now you can ask natural language questions and get sensible data out of your analytics system, leveraging all of that great data you have inside your organization. And you can also do some really cool things, which is like a core coding with this. So you'd actually, out of the box, ChatGPT does a pretty good job of ABAP, for example. And we're taking this much further. Here's a little prototype called CapGPT. So the idea here is that you're a power developer inside your organization. You also want to say, hey, would you develop a business app for a ticketing system, enables customers to submit tickets and agents to handle and resolve those tickets efficiently. You just give it that text, explain what you want, and then that turns you into the Cloud Application Programming Model code, the SAP Business Technology Platform code, to go ahead and create your application. And then you can tweak that over time to create, again, exactly what you want. So really vastly accelerating the efforts of your professional developers inside the organization to do coding much faster. Now, that's a lot about the built-in capabilities of AI, but of course we also want to enable you to add on AI to your existing systems to put in place just that differentiating technology that you want to use differently. That's how we're using the business technology platform to implement all of these open AI models and so on into our existing translation. So it's the glue to leverage all of your existing systems in new and more advanced ways. Here's an example of an organization that did that. This is from the SAP Innovation Awards. The company is called Evangelist. They're in the US. They run electricity networks for several million customers. And here's a project they had. So they have these cameras inside the cabs of their trucks. So as the trucks go off to a job to do maintenance, these cameras are slowly scanning all of the power lines that they go past and taking photographs. And they've trained an algorithm to detect the lightning arrestor, that component there, and it will detect whether that needs repairing or not. Is it a good one or a bad one? And then it will automatically feed that information into the SAP maintenance system. And you can just about see on the map there's a little red block. That is, hey, we spotted one of these things that needs fixing. It automatically puts it into the list of things to be collected. And so the next time around, you can do this more efficiently. Now, the system was 30% more efficient, 40% faster, and increased reliability by 70% because fewer times people had to go and fix these. It was more predictive in nature. And that was interesting because the algorithms themselves, in this case, were open source. And they trained the algorithm in the cloud, but then they actually installed it on an edge device. So it was actually running on a small computer inside each truck as it was going out, because so they didn't need the connectivity that they would otherwise need. And so like a powerful system that worked incredibly well. And why did they use SAP here? Because they needed it to be part of a productive system. They actually needed it to work. So AI algorithms and SAP are a match made in heaven. Now, the Gartner and the others, they talk about the future of innovation and how we can all innovate faster. A big part of this is what they call the composable enterprise and composable applications. And that's exactly what Avangrid did. They took different bits of technology and glued them together using the SAP Business Technology Platform. So it's all about being able to create fast, iterative, agile, new business processes without all of the traditional change process using these new platforms. But the irony of composable, that if it's done right, you shouldn't have to do very much of it yourselves. Why? Because there are very few truly unique business problems. If it's a business problem that you face, let's face it, a lot of people in this room probably face it, and certainly across all of the millions of SAP customers. So we're spending a lot of time working on content. So the content, it comes in the form of predefined RPA bots, for example. We have a huge library because we know exactly what business problems you typically face. So you can just take a bot off the shelf, plug it into your existing applications, and do that part of the process faster. And this is where, hands up if you're an SAP partner here in the room. All right, thank you for joining us. So the partners are an absolutely essential part of this as well. It's all part of the ecosystem where it's not just about like services and just going to a partner and having just a specific service to build something new. We'd like you to be able to go to the SAP store, and if there's something that SAP doesn't provide, one of our partners will for a particular niche need. And again, technology, like a pack of Lego. Right, you buy a pack of Lego and you can just use that to create what's on the box and have it integrate with what you're already doing. Now, none of this helps you with what you should be doing. So here's the next technology, Signavio. This is actually a picture of my knee. A couple of years ago in the middle of the pandemic, I'm actually French, I live in Paris, and they let us out for about an hour a day for a while. We were locked in. And I thought, well, I'll use that hour to run as fast as I possibly can, and so I can stay fit. That was a really bad idea because after a week, I could barely walk because of the pain in my knee. I went to see the doctor and said, well, what's wrong with me? And she said, I don't know. You have pain, you have symptoms, but until we do an MRI of your knee, an x-ray of your knee, we're not going to be able to see what's actually going wrong. And this is where Signavio comes in. It's a little bit like an MRI machine or an x-ray that you can shine into your business process and figure out exactly where and why it's going on. And it's a big part, there's a whole suite of products that help you do this, but I found that they're incredibly valuable tools when it comes to innovation. Because it turns out these kinds of visualizations are very powerful to explain to business people why they might want to use a new technology like S4HANA or SAP BTP. You can say, hey, look, here's our business process, and we have maybe 10% exceptions. Now, we do benchmarks, so the average in your industry, there's only 5% exceptions. So if we were only as good as our competitors, how much money would we be able to save? And then we'll offer you, increasingly, we have done a lot, again, we've done this a lot, so we can offer this as much as possible out of the box. So again, we can in the part of the business process, we can highlight here's the part that you can get the big business benefit, and here from the SAP store or all the predefined best practices in S4HANA, here's the composable application that would best fit that new opportunity. So automated automation or push button innovation, where as much as possible we can use all of this best practice and be more prescriptive. Instead of you having to constantly go, well, what do we do next? Why can't the system say, hey, here's the biggest opportunity given the technology landscape today? All right, so we're already offering some of this. You'll hear more, hopefully, in the keynote tomorrow with Signavio. But I think this is a massive opportunity in the coming years. Now, going back to AI, what is it that stops people from being successful? Here's a quote from Eric Brethenu of Gartner. He's been working with them for decades. As he says, the biggest problem with AI is not the algorithms. In many ways, that's the easy part. The hard part is turning it into business value. So how do you do that? Well, it's in the name SAP, systems and processes. It's about integrating it into what you actually do. So how can we help there? This is where the magic happens when it comes to artificial intelligence, the sewers. Why do I say that? Well, because the number one thing that stops AI projects from working is data quality. Hands up if you have a data quality problem in your organization. All right, if you don't have your hand up, you're in denial. Every organization on the planet has a data quality problem. But we all know it's hard to get the budgets and the backup from your organization to go and do plumbing. It's the sewage. Like, nobody wants to clean that out if they can avoid it. The good news is that with AI, the opportunities are now huge. The value of cleaning up your data is now much higher than it was before. And second, we've introduced some great technology to help you do that with things like SAP DataSphere. We'll get back to it in a second. But the first big step for almost every organization in this room to move forward with AI is probably a small step backwards and actually get back and do some of that plumbing work that you know you should have done, but now you have some new impetus to do so. So how can we help? Well, one of the big things that's changed in the industry is how you look at and leverage data. I've been in this business for a long time, and the first step of leveraging data has always been, hey, rip it out of the operational systems and put it somewhere else where we can fix it. So it used to be called a data warehouse, then we had data lakes, now there are data lake houses, and there's the data cloud. But still, a lot of people say, oh yeah, the first thing you have to do is rip all of your data out of the operational systems and put it in one place. The problem is that that's a little bit like taking a tree that's thriving and then ripping out of the ground and then trying to move it somewhere else and getting it to grow. You lose the roots, the metadata, the hierarchies, the row-level security, all of the context of the business, and then you have to try and recreate it in a new environment. By our calculations, something like 80 to 90% of most data warehousing type projects is just about recreating what you lost by ripping the data out of the operational systems in the first place. The good news is there's a new opportunity to do things the other way around, to bring technology to the data rather than the other way around. And this is what the analysts called data mesh or data sphere. So the idea is that you, as much as possible, leave the data where it already is, but weave it together. So the mesh, you weave it together as a tapestry. So you still get an overview of your data, a single view of how it all connects together, but you don't have to physically move the data from one place. So this is done with data mesh in particular, this notion of data as a product, so more API-based, where different groups inside organization own the data quality and provide it to other people. So think of it as the data equivalent of the composable enterprise we just looked at. So if you want to create an analytic application, you bring bricks of data together from different providers. So this is where SAP Data Sphere comes in. Who's heard of Data Sphere? It's pretty new. Who's tired of putting up their hands because, you know, it's the afternoon? Okay. Who's not going to put their hands up no matter what I say? Yeah, thought so. So it's not an entirely new solution, but it's brought together all of our technologies like data intelligence and some of our data warehousing technology, data warehouse cloud. And the idea is that you have a business data fabric, so a business layer, semantic layer, if you like. But the data from creating that is actually stored and come from many different places. So here, for example, we'll have data from SAP, but also data from outside systems. It could be from Google Cloud. It could be from a data lake. It could be the results of an AI algorithm. But as much as possible, again, it's left where it is, and we delegate out the querying to the different parts. So, concrete example of how that works, Costain Net Zero Analytics Platform. So Costain is an organization that does all the project management for the transportation projects in the UK. So all of the bridges and roads and trains. So it's like something 600 billion pounds of investment money goes through this organization. And one of the things they worked on is the UK government has a very firm commitment to be net zero by 2050. Now, that's a really tough goal, to be honest. And that 28% of that is transportation. So they have a big opportunity to use these transportation projects as efficiently as possible to get as close as possible to those carbon goals. So what they did is they used SAP Data Intelligence. That functionality is now part of the SAP Data Sphere. And it brings together all of these different project data sources. Carbon data is particularly complicated because it's actually end-to-end. It's whole life carbon across the entire project. So it's not just early on, it's like across the entire end-to-end project. Lots of different formats, but they bring it all together to have a single overview of what's going on in all of these different organizations. But again, it doesn't store any data itself. It leaves the data as much as possible in the individual providers, and they explain that this approach actually saved them a ton of money because they didn't have to waste all of that money on the extra layer of data warehousing, and also increase things like security because the data is left in the core systems using their security. Now, this is actually part of a bigger dashboard called the Intelligent Infrastructure Control Center. And honestly, it's amazing. You can get like an overview like this. It has the carbon data. It has social value information, biodiversity, noise, air quality. So everything you would want to see in terms of the social goals. But they're also using it, of course, to save a lot of money. They use artificial intelligence to compare different projects and project in advance when they're going to go over budget. And you can actually see, you can go from the highest level and then drill all the way down to the individual position of an earth mover on a building site, using the GPS coordinates of that vehicle. But at each phase, it will go out and get the information from the appropriate system at the appropriate level. So this is the way forward, we believe, for a lot of the information management that you need to leverage AI effectively. The other big thing we need to talk about is how do we get the most value out of data? Well, this is Gartner on stage in Australia late last year. Data needs to drive business results. It has to put it into a business process in order to get things done. So how do we do that? Well, here's a fun example. You see, I've got giraffes in here too. Who can tell me where this is? Shout it out, shout. Sydney, there we go. So there's a Sydney Opera House on the right of the screen there. So this is Taronga Zoo, and they use SAP BTP to put together an application for all of their employees. Really, so getting information into the fingertips of people on the front line. So this is literally used by everybody in the park. As they're mucking out the zebra cage, they have this in their pocket. And so it's got the staff directory, procurement, HR functions. If I want to go on vacation, this is where I go. The Zoo map. So lots of great functionality, but I've highlighted one, which was the hazards and emergencies, because just right at the end of late last year, they had what they euphemistically called an enclosure malfunction. So basically, the lions got loose. So they escaped into the park, and they used the alerts. So immediately all of the staff in the park, their buzzers, pockets started buzzing, and they were able to get everybody to safety. The older lions actually stayed in the enclosure. It was just some of the cubs that were a lot more curious and went out. And all but one of them went back to their mother, and the last one had to be tranquilized, but thankfully nobody was hurt. But that was a great example, there you go, of a happy ending for everybody, and SAP saving lives. Nobody got eaten thanks to SAP. Just in general, we have a big opportunity to make sure that more information is in the hands of people in the front line. We've done a great job of letting business analysts get access to information. We can always do better, but it's pretty much covered. But I think there is an opportunity to get more information out to really everybody in the front lines using mobile devices. This is an example in retail. So this is the store managers have this at their fingertips so they can track exactly how their sales are going and what they can do to improve. Looking forward, we have some amazing opportunities to use data in new ways. We have this prototype called the Continuous Intelligence Prototype. And the bottom line is, why should you go looking for information? Again, in general, we know a lot about what's going on. Why don't we just tell you what's unusual and different and what you should be looking at? So some of this is already built into SAP Cloud Analytics. So you can already click a button and it will say, hey, what's unusual, different about this data? But you can imagine across your business processes. So discovering patterns, machine learning at scale. So really push information out to you as and when it's relevant. Hopefully we'll hear more of that over the coming months. Final big topic area is I think we have a massive opportunity to enable business people to do more innovation themselves in their area of expertise without IT and technology being a bottleneck. It's the arrival of what you might call the purple people. So who are the purple people? Well, they're halfway between the red technology professionals and the blue business professionals. So these are the power users, if you like. And Gartner believes that 80% of new technology products will be built by these non-technical people in the years to come. We all know this has been a trend for a long time, where IT moves from doing everything to being an enabler for business IT teams, and then there's the formation of shadow IT teams. But now, with the latest generation of no-code and low-code, the power users really got more powerful. It really is possible for them to create true end-to-end business processes as long as you have the right foundation in place. So at SAP, we don't believe that it's about pro-code or no-code. It's about co-code, about the IT and business working together to enable this fast, innovative, agile use of these technologies. Here's a nice example. This is from DHL. So as a driver goes to pick up a truck, the first thing they'll do is take a look around the truck and see if there's any damage, right? You know, if you take a rental car, you probably check it for damage first. If they find a problem, they can take a picture and then upload that to the system. It's very easy and simple to use. What's different about this application is that it was created by the business teams, not central IT, and it's all without a single line of code. So this is using SAP Build Apps, and you can simply drag and drop blocks like take a photo rather than having to understand any kind of complicated coding. And they were able to create this in a matter of weeks and roll it out to a few thousand users across Europe in this case. Now, the key about this kind of application, we believe, as we look forward to the future, is to create this sort of application. It's about building these blocks together, but you want to provide some of those blocks to your business people. You don't want business people recreating what profit is or headcount, right? There's these business terms, you just want people to use the right ones. So you provide that as a brick using something like DataSphere. Like here are the terms. You don't have to understand where they came from, how they're calculated. They're just available for you to add into a business process or an application. And then on the far end, you need to be able to do something, generate an invoice or an open headcount. Again, you don't want the business people to have to figure that out and run APIs, and just a block. And they just drag and drop these blocks together, and in the middle they can create authorizations and decision points and handle it in particular ways. So that's the future. Co-code. We'd like to help. We think that this is the area where SAP probably has the biggest benefit. There's a lot of low-code solutions out there, but we all find that you need to be able to do it with the governance in place. And if there's one thing that SAP is good at, it's processes and governance. All right, so a question for the audience, if we can bring up Mentimeter. There we go, perfect. Do you have a clear plan in place to enable purple people innovation? So in your organization, so I put yes, no, and maybe. So yes for me is pretty strong. So yes means that you really have a full system in place where you've got people are trained, you've enabled the tools, and you have some system in place to make sure that what they're building can be tested and go into production. So yes, no, and maybe. If you could go ahead and use your applications or use the Menti code there. I know the Wi-Fi suddenly slows down when everybody is answering this at the same time, so I'll give you another few seconds. Oh, I really want to. Okay, so if you said yes, I'd actually be really interested to talk to you in a drink afterwards, because this is really. The background to this is I believe that this is one of the biggest challenges that we will all face as organizations in the next few years, is moving the focus of innovation to the business people, because it requires a culture change inside the organization about doing things differently. And we know that culture change is probably the hardest part of the tools exist today. It's just we need to make sure that we're using them in the right way, because otherwise you end up with chaos. All right, so clearly this is an opportunity for us all to work in new ways. Thank you very much for your feedback. If you go back to the slides. All right. Now, when it comes to AI, it's really important to realize that we're in what I think of as the horseless carriage phase of AI. So, when they first came out with cars, they just basically took a carriage and stuck an engine on it, right? They did the old things and just bolted the new things on. And most of the AI that I see today is exactly that. It's just accelerating what we already did. And that's okay, but it's also we have an opportunity to rethink what we do. It's a great time to take a step back and rethink our value propositions as individuals, as companies, and maybe even entire industries. Now, this is a tweet I found online. The value of 90% of my skills just dropped to 0. The leverage for the remaining 10% went up 1,000 times. I need to recalibrate. Now, I think this is a bit extreme, but I think some variation of this applies to us all. There's probably part of our job that we shouldn't be doing and that the AI algorithm should be doing instead. Let's spend some time thinking about what that part of the job is of us or the company. And moving forward, of course, this is where we would like to help. Now, the model is very much a duet, not a duel. We know that the answer is not the AI algorithms replacing people. It's about empowering people to do more and do more powerful. It's not Iron Man. It's Iron Man, not a Terminator. It's not out to kill the human race. It's a device that you can stick in your chest, or Jarvis, from the movies, that helps Iron Man with all of the, it's basically the chat bot giving intelligence. So why do I say all that? Well, who's this? Somebody? Picasso, except of course it's not. It's a fake Picasso generated by AI, of course. So here's one of my favorite quotes ever. Computers are useless. They can only give you answers. Right? And it's so true. Algorithms can only give you answers. Here's Einstein. The true sign of intelligence is not knowledge, but imagination. Ultimately, there is nothing more human in the world than innovation. Only human beings will ever be able to innovate. Why? Because we're the only ones who can understand the real context of what's going on in the world and in business. We're the ones that can spot the opportunities for things that could be done better. We can make suggestions. So the key is to leverage these new technologies, but really focus on what makes us human. AI ultimately will take away the parts of our job where we used to act as robots, right? It makes all of the repetitive, the complex bits, or we're just recreating the wheel, or we're just shuffling information from one place to another. Give that over to the robots, and we can focus on what we do best. The human side of things, empathy, and above all, really changing your organization for better in the future. All right, just to summarize, I do think that SAP and business AI are hand-in-hand, wonderful companions for each other. We looked at how SAP is providing you with AI directly. So you don't have to do anything. You will be using AI because we will provide it for you. It will be built-in, relevant, and responsible. But we also give you all the tools you need to leverage AI and these other technologies in new ways with the Business Technology Platform for those agile, composable, new innovative business processes, working together with the ecosystem so you can just drag and drop these different components to be able to innovate faster. We're giving you the tools to turn data into insight and to provide the data you need to do artificial intelligence more successfully with new tools like SAP DataSphere. And we really want to empower business people without creating chaos thanks to new technologies such as SAP Build. With that, please link with me on LinkedIn if you'd like to know more. I wish you the very best of success with your projects in the future, and I would be delighted to talk to you about any of that over a drink at tonight's event or tomorrow. Thank you very much for your time.